Mário Rodrigues Filho, better known as Mário Filho, was a Brazilian journalist and writer. Born in the capital of Pernambuco state, Mário Filho moved to Rio while still a child, in 1916. His father, Mário Rodrigues, owned the newspaper Manhã. The younger Mário began at his father's paper in 1926 as a sports reporter, pursuing a relatively undeveloped form of journalism. Mário Filho, the son of Mário Rodrigues, a journalist of the local daily Diário de Pernambuco, was born in the capital of northeast Brazilian state of Pernambuco, Recife, in 1908. On his election as a member of the federal parliament in 1912, the family moved to the former capital of Brazil, Rio de Janeiro. Mário Filho began his career as a reporter for the daily newspaper Manhã in Rio, which was then in possession of his father. By 1926 he had completely specialized in sports. Filho was himself an ardent follower of the sport, which had established itself in Brazil since the turn of the century, and filled with reporting on all sides, which was uncommon in those days. In the second paper of his father, Critica, he revolutionized football coverage. He reported in detail on players and matches and made use of it as a language. The same language also was made use of by the fans. The myth of the derbies phase between the leading football teams of Rio, Fluminense and Flamengo, is also attributed to him. To be co-founded, even the term FLA Flu goes back to him. After the death of his father, Mário Filho led the Critica newspaper for a short time, to a speedy end. In 1931 he founded O Mundo Esportivo, the first magazine in Brazil dedicated to sports, whose existence though was quite brief. In 1931 he joined the newspaper O Globo, where he later worked with the media mogul Roberto Marinho, also with whom he often played snooker. In 1932 he founded the annual competition of samba for schools of Rio de Janeiro, the Desfile da Escola de Samba, now one of the main tourist attractions of the city. This was originally intended as a stopgap, because Mundo Esportivo lost readership strongly between the relatively few and short football competitions. The actual idea for this, however, is attributed to the journalist Carlos Pimentel working for Mundo Esportivo. In 1936, he took over from Roberto Marinho the Jornal dos Sports, briefly after J Sports called upon. J Sports inspired the introduction of other sporting events, such as the Jogos da Primavera for women's sport and football competitions for youth teams. Outstanding contribution was made in 1950 for the resumption of the 1933 Torneio Rio-São Paulo between the leading clubs within both states. In the late 1940s, Mário Filho was involved with the Jornal dos Sports initiative for building the main stadium of the Football World Cup 1950, not in Jacarepaguá, but in the western outlets of Rio de Janeiro. It was in the district Maracana, just a few kilometers north of the city centre, on the then orphaned grounds of the racecourse of Derby Club. Its main adversary was the journalist and councillor Carlos Lacerda, later aspirant for president and governor of the state of Guanabara. Also in 1951, Copa Rio, a kind of Club World Cup, was launched based on an idea by Filho. Mário Filho also appeared as the author of several books in publication. In 1947, his book O Negro no Futebol Brasileiro was published and is still considered a classic of Brazilian sports literature. In it, he describes the rise of the first black stars like Arthur Friedrich, Leonidas da Silva and Domingos da Guia. Posthumously published in 1994. 1994. Sapo de Arubinha is a collection of articles by Filhos documenting the Brazilian football in the first half of the 20th century. Mário Filho died in 1966 at the age of 58 due to a heart attack, leaving behind his wife Célia. Célia committed suicide just a few months after his death. In his honor, the old municipal stadium Maracana was named Journalist Mário Filho Stadium. Already in the 1950s, the readership of the journal Dos Sports know that his heart was for the Fluminense Football Club beats. The great playwright and chronicler Nelson Rodrigues, brother of Mário Filho, honored him with the name the creator of crowds, because of his importance in popularizing football in Rio de Janeiro and Brazil. Bibliography. Boncas. Senhorita 1950. Copa Rio Branco. Historias de Flamengo. O Negro no Futebol Brasileiro. Romance de Futebol. Copa do Mundo de 62. Vargem em torno de Pelé. O Rosso. Infância de Portinari. Sapo de Arubinha.